Welcome to the Hivemind Day. Hi everyone, welcome to our 76th episode from Hivemind, and we are beekeepers from the hills of West Auckland, and today we're waking up to a very grey, wet morning.
Grey, wet morning, great time to record a podcast for you guys.
Fantastic, and I think that's all go, go, go.
Absolutely, and this week we're talking about bee-friendly plants.
7 amazing bee facts and Russian plane attack.
Yes, this is episode 76 of our Beekeeping podcast.
And well done, Gary, for all your efforts on the editing of these shows, because I know it takes a lot of time and I know our listeners really appreciate it.
No worries, Margaret, and thanks for coming along.
Yes, part of the team.
And we are Gary and Margaret, and we are beekeepers from the hills of the Waitaki Ranges in West Auckland, New Zealand. And our podcast covers beekeeping, gardening, and political issues. And we sometimes go off on tangents, sometimes, don't we?
Yeah, sometimes. You know, I like to think I am, and I get a lot of support out there for my tangents, so I'll keep that up best I can.
We have some feedback about your tangents. It's good.
Yeah, so that's all good. And, okay, where can people find the show notes, Gary?
It's kiwimana.co.nz/76 for this one.
Yeah, and we're getting up there, aren't we?
We are. We're almost up to 80 soon, so that'll be good.
Awesome. And, you know, thanks, guys, for taking time to listen to our show. And we know life is busy for you, and we really appreciate that you've taken time to join us today. So enjoy.
Absolutely. And the executive producers this month are Lauren Hoffman and Aaron Jennings from Jennings Apiaries, and they're setting up a Louisiana bee sanctuary soon, aren't they?
Yeah, they're looking at getting some support with that, so they need some financial input. And, yeah, we've supported them, and we just encourage everyone to put something in and help them out to get this bee sanctuary on the road.
Absolutely, and so check out that. It'll be kiwi.buzz/sanctuary. We'll put a link there, so kiwi.bz/sanctuary.
Yeah, so they've got some wonderful plans for that. So, yeah, go guys!
And we got a letter from them yesterday too, didn't we? So
yes, we did, about a very special occasion, and we'll be getting in touch with Lauren and Aaron in due course.
Yes, hopefully we can make that happen.
Okay, so what's happening at Hivemind, Gary?
Well, I'm still hopping along after my bad sprain on the pallet bridge of death, as it's been known now. But so not much beekeeping happening for me, so that's all been down to you and your assistant, isn't it?
Well, I've been on my own, actually, for the last few weeks. So that's the way it goes sometimes, but it's all good. And I'm on to the last treatment this week, so that was great. And now we're just doing our assessment inspections. But what about you, Gary? Enough about me?
Sorry.
There'll never be enough about me.
No, never be enough about you, Margaret.
Yeah.
And well, I've been out of action, and so I haven't been in the workshop, so I apologise to everyone that's waiting for things. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. We're trying our best to get back in there. Also, I've been reading Oren Fox's book, who we're interviewing this Saturday.
That's Oren Fox.
Oren Fox, which is a great book he's written. And also, I've discovered the library has free beekeeping books.
Which library?
Auckland Library.
Oh, the Auckland Council Library.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you can actually go in there, and you can rent a book or keep a book for a whole month. And I'm reading The Urban Beekeeper by Stephen Bembo at the moment. So that's awesome. So
you're actually talking about an electronic version rather than having to go and pick up a hard copy?
Oh no, this one's a hard copy, but
okay.
you can get electronic books, and they go to your iPad.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's cool, but it's I'm not really into reading huge books on iPads because it hurts your eyes. But I'd rather read it on my Kindle or a real book.
Okay.
But no, it's good.
And what else has been going on?
Well,
Gary?
last week it was Kevin Ingram from the Beekeepers Corners podcast. It was his birthday, so happy birthday!
Happy birthday to you!
Yeah, happy birthday, Kevin! And we hope you had a great day, and we we really appreciate your podcast. So everyone out there, check out the Beekeepers Corner podcast.
Yeah, we had a bit of fun watching that, so that's all good.
Yeah, and I think he's 22 now. So
22, well done, Kevin.
He never changes age.
Okay.
And I've got a request for you guys. And on September the 30th, which is in about 3 weeks, International Podcast Day. So be part of our special show. We're going to have a special show. So please, if you can record a sound file with your name and what your favourite podcast is, and then just email that file to gary@kiwimana.co.nz and you can be part of the show.
So what are they going to do with this? What sort of thing do you want them to record? How do you want it to be?
Just like a WAV file on their computer or on their smartphone.
And what do you want them to say on this sound file?
I want to say something like, "Hi, I'm Bill, and my favourite podcast is..."
Every single
whatever.
Kiwi Mana podcast that's come out.
No, they don't need to say Kiwi Mana. They can just say any podcast at all. It doesn't even need to be beekeeping. It'll just be
okay.
interesting to hear from beekeepers around the world what your favourite podcast is. So
interesting. Okay.
So if you can be part of that would be awesome. And if we get enough people, we'll release that show on the 30th of September. So be part of it. It would be awesome. And what's up with you?
Everything is awesome. Sorry.
Yes.
Tangent. Okay.
How are you, Margaret?
Yes, all good for me. Yeah, working on my own in the apiary and the workshop these days, so gets a bit lonely out there, I must say.
Well, you got the bees. There's millions of bees with you.
Yeah, the bees are doing well, and that leads me to some of the things that have come to me this week and last week through because I have been doing my DECA inspections. That's the Disease Elimination Conformity Agreement checks for AFB recognition, and when I go to do these inspections, I get a lot of phone calls and some of them are quite panicky about what's going on. And this is the time of the year when a lot of the winter bees are starting to pass away. Unfortunately, they've done their job, and so now we're getting new bees in. So with that, there comes a bit of loss. And also the other thing that came into the discussions over this last couple of weeks is about microclimates. And these are situations where people have their hives set up in different areas around the property, or they're shadowed, or they're in a valley, so their temperatures are lower than us up here on the hill. So we've got all these different things that are going on, and we try to do our best to actually work with the individual on their individual situation, and that does take a lot of work. But the scenarios that I found over the last few weeks is that there are some colonies that are already producing drones, and the drone cells have got Varroa in them, so it's pretty intense at the moment, and there are Varroa on the foraging bees coming in. And a lot less deformed wing virus than I have seen over winter, so that's a good sign. And the newer bees that are emerging now are looking fully formed, and their wings are perfect and they're looking good. So mainly it's because people are treating and they're doing good treatments. And that's what I've been finding this week. And one colony, which is down in a low part of the valley, it gets a lot colder. Those ones haven't even started drawing drones yet. So, the queens will work to your local microclimate, and just trust them for what they're doing. But at this time, you should be checking cells for Varroa presence, not just on the bees, but actually in the cells, because that's the emerging bees are going to have those viruses if they have Varroa in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And how far away do you think swarming is in New Zealand? I think probably a couple of weeks.
Well, in some areas, I'd say perhaps a couple of weeks. But the girls all seem to be, because the temperatures haven't quite hit the highs yet. So even though we're getting about 16 degrees, that's Celsius, when the wind is there, it's actually dropping it down again. So although bees like to forage around 14 degrees, the chill factor in the rain is stopping them from foraging. So a lot of the colonies are actually running out of food. because they're stuck inside for such long periods. So that's the other thing that really needs to be addressed. So that's what I'm finding, that people are worried about their bees starving.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've heard from people in Sydney in Australia that the swarming has started, so it's moving downhill.
Yeah.
So,
and they say that they're already extracting. So last year they had about 95 kilos per hive, so that's huge. So I'll be interested to see what our Aussie mates are getting this season. So yeah,
absolutely. Yep, shout out to everyone in Sydney that's been downloading our podcast. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and thanks to those of you who are buying our Kiwi Breeze, our ventilated mesh suits. There's a lot of Aussies out there who want to be cool beekeepers. Woohoo!
Exactly.
Cool. Okay. Well, the other thing that came to me is about treatments and the oxalic acid vaporization method. And we have two types of treatments that we actually do here at Kumana HQ. We combine the two different ones, the oxalic acid vaporization, which is oxalic crystals which are put into what they call a vaporizer. And when the heat exchange occurs, the crystals become a vapor, and that vapor is moved around the hive by the movement of the bees, and the vapor, it's got very fine crystals which stop the varroa from being able to breathe properly. I mean, this is very simplistic, non-scientific explanation. So, and then basically the varroa falls off the bee, and hopefully you've got a ventilated mesh board and they fall through that and they die, and that stops them from getting into cells. So it's a very good way that we use it. The other method that we use is called Life, which is thyme-based and thymal oil concentrate. So, and that we use that twice a year. The vaporization method we do twice a year. So we've always followed the thoughts of doing it 4 times a year. And also, when you have no evidence of varroa, the assumption should be that there is some varroa there. So that's the two methods that we use, and I support both of them. They're organic, they're not synthetics, and synthetic is another word for man-made product, and those man-made products have been, through research shown to create resistance in the actual varroa destructor mite.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're becoming used to it, aren't they? So they're not as effective as they used to be.
Yeah, I think so, and that's why organically treating your bees is actually the best way to go in my view, and we're lucky in our little local area that if all of us do the organic treatments and we do it 4 times a year, we can probably combat the varroa a lot better. So that's our hope. We would love everyone across the whole of New Zealand to treat exactly the same time and 4 times a year, and depending on the kind of treatment you use, I think it would be awesome, and I think would really whack those varroa mites.
Absolutely. And the other thing about oxalic acid, there's 2 ways to do it. You can actually do it with a dribble method or a vaporization, and there's been a bit of confusion this week about when you use the dribble method, because the bees ingest it, you're not meant to do it more than once a season. So there's a difference between the vaporization of it and the ingestion of it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that is true. And in New Zealand, there are the legalised or approved methods of treatment, and the oxalic acid dribble method was where the oxalic acid was added to a sugar syrup and then dribbled directly onto the bees. And we didn't find success with that. In fact, we lost one of our queens through that process. So I never did that one again. And, when we found out about the vaporization method and we did a lot of research, we found that in Canada they had their vaporizer, and that was a really interesting find. And yes, and now it's being used in New Zealand quite frequently and very good results. The thing that also was brought up is about time. And a lot of organic methods do require a bit more time because they're a more natural way to deal with your bees. So you do have to spend a bit of time to do that. So I think it's really important to follow the instructions. Don't overdose. don't put extra amounts of concentrates in your hive because that is harmful. You need to use the recommended methods, and we are going to just have on our show notes our recommended method with our kiwi oxalic acid vaporizer and the quantities that you need. And it's 1/4 of a teaspoon, which is about 0.78 of a gram. So 1/4 teaspoon is sufficient, and a level teaspoon, not heaped, okay? So you can easily look at our video, and Gary put a link to that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we use those baking shop measurement things, which are really good. But if you're unsure, if you've got some other kind of measurement device, just weigh it first, and you can see what it weighs.
Yeah, I think that sometimes it can be a bit difficult when you're out in the field. So try and prepare everything before you go out, and don't leave the vaporizer inside the hive for that extra 10 minutes once you've disconnected from the power. And the reason for that is that the vaporizer will cool down, and then when you're ready, you can put it into the next hive, put the next acid into the head of it without it starting to evaporate. And that oxalic acid is very toxic and poisonous and corrosive. So you really want to make sure that the vaporizer is cooled down. And you need that 10 minutes just for the bees to move the vapor around the hive. The other thing that I came across also is, people talk about, all these mold and damp and infections and fungi and all these kind of things. And it came to me as I was thinking about what's happening for the bees. And I had a look at this article about this guy who was a beekeeper, and he started using thymol in his treatments of bees. And this was even before Varroa. And it was really interesting. And I was thinking that I think the reason why the Varroa might have been present for a long time but never really became an issue. But as soon as people started doing monocultures and getting rid of wild flower fields, with all the natural herbs and flowers and perennials and everything else like that, I think that the bees were starting to get a failure in their diet. And I think that was one of the reasons why bees became more, weaker against the Varroa mite over time. And he started using this thymol, which is thyme oil, in syrups for winter feeding. And it was used initially as to prevent fermentation and the growth of mold. So it was really interesting that as he started using it, it's been proven useful in controlling Varroa mites. So I'll put that little blurb. We'll add it to the show notes so you can have a look at that. And it talks about how he made the concentrate, and then he added a part of the concentrate to sugar and water, and how they used it for winter feed. And thyme itself is a great cleaner. It gets rid of fungi and bacteria and everything like that. And I'm thinking that, as soon as your hive gets damp, then you really are causing issues for your bees.
Yeah, and it's used in a lot of disinfectant products, isn't it? Because we actually found some that in a disinfectant we've got for the bathroom, it's actually got thyme in it.
Yeah, it kills bacteria, and the fungi doesn't grow. And you can also put it on your skin and things like that, but you need to be careful of the quantities that you put on. It's used in antiseptic wipes as well. So it's a fantastic product, and I think if you really want to help your bees, have lots of thyme planted around your apiary. Make sure that they have that they don't get stuck in water, so you need to put maybe some pebbles or rocks in the pot or the earth. When you have a raised bed, you can put a whole lot of gravel on the bottom of the bed, and then put your dirt on top with maybe have the gravel, then have a weed cloth underneath so that the dirt doesn't wash away, and then put the dirt on top and then plant your plants. And my gardens seem to be doing quite well with that. And at the moment, the thyme is starting to bloom and it smells awesome.
Yeah, and the bees love it too, don't they?
They absolutely love it, and the rosemary's going crazy at the moment. But it's really been interesting to talk about thymol crystals used as a surgical spirit as well. So there's some interesting stuff out there, and I think that might be one of the reasons why the Varroa are getting stronger, because the bees aren't having enough diverse food. Anyway,
absolutely.
That's my tangent this week, because I think it's really relevant, and I'm going to start making my own wipe that I can do on the baseboard of the hive.
Cool.
Just to keep it clean from the Varroa, because we get so much rain where we are, and as I'm talking the rain, I can hear it on the roof is pouring down, and it may just stop the growth of the fungi and damp.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so
cool. Anything else you want to bring up this month?
Well, I think that those are the two main things, and understanding temperature when you're using different treatments is good. The heat of the cluster can often activate some treatments, but if the hive itself is damp or wet, then the treatments are not going to be more as effective, because the hive's already damp. So the bees can't keep a hive dry if it's constantly being wet. So, we always encourage people to increase the height of the hive off the ground so that splash up doesn't affect that. Because as soon as the baseboard gets wet, the water travels up the wood and into the baseboard. So you really want to prevent the baseboard from getting wet.
Yeah, and if it gets wet, it gets damp and it rots, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah, it starts to rot. You could either paint it but our recommendation is have it 20 centimetres up off the ground, especially if you're in West Auckland or areas where things get really wet.
Yeah.
And obviously if dirt gets wet, it's going to transfer up. So you want to prevent that transfer. And having a mesh board is really, really good, because there's two benefits for that. Is that when the bees groom themselves naturally, the Varroa is pulled off and falls down. Now, if you've got a solid bottom board, the Varroa will fall onto the board and then it will just crawl up and go back and jump on a bee, because Varroa can jump. So a lot of people don't realise that. So if you've got a mesh board with a good size mesh, not too wide because you don't want other insects to get in, but wide enough for the Varroa to fall through, then you're helping the bees cope with that in a natural mite-fall way. So bear that in mind. A mesh board will give ventilation as well, so the bees can dry out the hive a lot easier. If everything's all closed up and tight and no air, they can't dry the hive out.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to blog recap.
Okie dokie.
Blog recap, where we recap the top 3 blog posts / podcasts last month. So number 1.
Awesome.
The team at Jennings Apiaries, when we interviewed Aaron and Lauren, that was our number 1 podcast last month. So thanks, guys, for coming on the show again, and that was awesome.
And I like to say that, Aaron and Lauren have become part of our team. And, when you're a team, everything is awesome.
Absolutely. And number 2, CCD in New Zealand. This is the one we talked about.
Take me down to Parasite City.
Yeah. A few people like that title. It was funny.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good one. Yeah, about those Varroa
Destructor?
Yeah, that's it. The Varroa Destructor in Parasite City, and all the girls
and
in the hive.
And the new parasite that's happened here. So that was a good podcast. If you're in New Zealand and you want to get some information about that, check that out. Yep. And the third one was Filming the Bees with Bill Catherall from the Bee Vlog.
Oh, I love this. Love this. It was great. You should have a look at it, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a bit of fun. I really enjoyed that. Moving along, Gary, and what's next?
Let's move on to news. Kiwimana News. News you can use.
Reporting live from Kiwimana HQ up in the hills of West Auckland and Waitakere, New Zealand.
And the first article is from the Victoria Advocate, the second oldest newspaper in Texas. And it's 7 amazing things you should know about honeybees.
Yeah, some of these 7 things are truths to be held, and the one thing is that now we are now into spring this week. We say that spring is the promise of things to come, but those things that are coming through spring have been in the making through autumn and winter.
Absolutely, and a typical homeowner gets a little freaked out of his... What?
Typical homeowner gets a little freaked out if he finds a massive swarm of bees on his house or somewhere in his yard. The temptation might be to break out a bug spray or a garden hose.
Absolutely, and let's talk about the 7 things. First one. Most die young.
Yeah, and that would be happening at the moment, but these ones that are dying at the moment for us have been the winter bees, so they'll be, at the end of their life. They've done so much hard work over our winter, so they'll be dying now, but they would be the oldest worker bees to pass.
Absolutely, and they work hard.
Oh gosh, yeah. I just watch how many, sacks of pollen they're bringing in at the moment. Crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, they're bringing a lot of gorse pollen, aren't they? It's awesome.
Absolutely.
And it says here, during its lifetime, a typical worker bee produces 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. So, that's amazing, isn't it?
It's a lot of work for all that.
It is a lot of work.
I think we need to have an appreciation society.
We do.
Of the
Bee Appreciation Society.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, number 3, they help farmers. And some of their commercial crops depend on honeybees, like almonds, cucumbers. Most good food, eh?
I think so, like cocoa and coffee, you need them to be pollinated. So, next time you're biting into your chocolate bar, think of the bee.
That's right. Even kiwi, it says here. That's awesome.
Indeed.
But I know they don't like kiwi fruit, but that's another story. And bees like company. And a large colony can be up to 80,000 bees, and the queen helps build a colony by laying up to 3,000 eggs a day. That seems a bit high, isn't it? But it's about
it's
1,600.
about 1,500 each side.
Yeah, but they're saying 3,000 per day.
Yeah, well, that would be both sides of the frame.
I don't think they have... I think 3,000 eggs on one frame. No.
On 1,500 on each side.
Oh, okay.
Because in a box of 10 frames, you're probably looking about 30,000 bees, which would make sense. Over summer, they get up to 60,000.
Oh, I know, but they're saying that she lays 3,000 eggs a day.
She can do, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Especially when spring comes on. So she'd be filling as many of frames as possible.
I think these Texas bees are hard workers then.
They must be, yeah.
And they have a long history. Yep, a lot more than us. A recent study of honeybee genetics found that they probably originated in Asia about 300,000 years ago.
Okay.
And they were only domesticated 1,000 years ago.
And it didn't take us long to start really giving them a hard time, did it? Jeez Louise, I'm going off on a tangent, but it's true, they've been around for so long, and how long does it take us to stuff them up?
Well, hopefully we won't be stuffing them up anymore. Let's hope. Bees have rhythm. Bees communicate through complex dances.
Absolutely. I love it. That's what I've also seen this week, is that the bees are just dancing their asses off. They are just going crazy. They're looking at collecting nectar. They're finally getting some nectar coming in. And boy, you should have seen the frame with all these waggle dances going on. It's really awesome.
And they do it without music.
I know. That's why you do need to be careful when you're mowing the lawn around them, because they hate that incessant vibration.
Drone, yeah.
Yeah. So I always wear my bee suit when I'm mowing the apiary.
Yep. And
anyway, I digress.
And followers of Instagram have seen many of those photos. I've even got a photo of you doing a barbecue with a bee suit on. What was that about?
I think that was when we had our mosquito season. or midges or whatever they call them over in the UK.
Exactly.
So yeah, we get a bit of mosquitoes around here. And they can be quite annoying.
It's another reason why to have a bee suit. Stop mosquitoes biting you.
Absolutely, and you can sit out there on a night when the mosquitoes are starting to hatch, and you can be uninterrupted.
Absolutely, but it's just hard to drink from your glass.
Indeed. And what's number 7, Gary?
Stings are fatal, but that's only for the bee. Every bee sting is fatal for the bee. Mind you, if you're allergic, they can be fatal to you, can't they?
They can be to some, and this week I got stung once on my foot because I was wearing my jandals.
As you do.
As I do, or thongs as they call them in Oz, and not the other thong, so don't get confused, folks.
Or flip-flops in other places.
Flip-flops, yeah, that's it. And mainly because I thought that they wouldn't be too worried, and they weren't too worried, but one bee fell down and obviously threatened her and she stung me.
Yeah, it's no good. Sad for the bee.
So these amazing little creatures are mentioned on this article. And where is this from? Australia? Is this article from Australia?
No, this is from Texas.
From Texas.
The second oldest newspaper in Texas, the Victoria Advocate.
Okay, the great US of A.
So thanks, guys, over there.
Yeah, and read that article, a bit of amusement. And what's next, Gary?
9 honeybee-friendly plants. This is a great article from the Mother Nature Network.
Wonderful.
Yep, most of the names seem to be American ones. Does Margaret, our gardener, know the New Zealand equivalent?
Oh, gosh. I think
this is going to be a contest.
I didn't actually do any study on this, but maybe our listeners can help us.
This is a quiz for you. And
oh, my God, homework.
No, it's not homework.
It's not homework.
Avid gardeners, take note. It's never too late to get out your shovel and start planting flowers to help bolster the honeybee population, which is in danger of extinction. Really?
Well, I think
maybe in some parts.
There have been, there was an article we saw where they had a honeybee in the UK, in Britain, that they thought was extinct, but they actually showed a photo of one that they saw in Essex. So
do you mean in Kent? That one, that bumblebee? Is that the one?
Yeah, that was awesome because,
that's
sometimes
because
they sneak somewhere and we don't always know.
Oh, no. The reason for that is because they reintroduced them from Sweden or somewhere. If you read,
Oh, okay.
That's
obviously didn't read enough of that article. I just thought the photo looked awesome.
Yeah, no, they are back. It's just they were reintroduced by humans. But that's good.
Okay.
They're still back.
Let's have a look at these 9 plants. One's the dandelion.
How many of these do you know? Dandelion. What's the equivalent?
Dandelion.
Ding, dong, ding,
I think it's actually spelt wrong. It's not dandelion. It's dandelion.
That will be fixed in the show notes.
That's a typo, folks. So asters, paper daisies, I think they are.
Okay. Lemon balm.
Lemon balm is a form of thyme or something?
No, it's called lemon balm and it's a herb. You can actually make tea out of it.
Well, thyme's a herb. Is it from the?
No, but it's a different herb. You can. I've actually seen seeds for that in the shops. You can buy that.
Oh gosh, so you know so much.
Not only about those ones. Black Eye Susan. Never heard of it.
No idea.
No.
I think our listeners should actually come back to us with the actual names from
that would be awesome.
Their country that equals these flowers.
So if you,
this article is good because you can go and have a look at the pictures and
find your
let's
own
have
name.
a look.
What I've discovered while you're looking at that is I discovered that if you Google the names, it comes up with the Latin name, and what generally you can go to a garden shop and say, do you sell this one? And they will understand the Latin name.
Yeah.
So that's another tip. Because often plants have got the same Latin name, but they've got multiple, every country calls them something different.
Yeah, because in New Zealand we call our polyanthus, but I think over in England they call them...
Something else?
Something else, yeah.
We'll come back to you on that.
This article is good though, because it talks about that, how the third of the crops are pollinated by bees, and then it talks about the different berries, and it talks about adding floral inventory to your landscape. In other words, get yourself some small garden beds. It doesn't matter how big they are. You can make small garden beds pretty cheaply and pretty easy. I just bought some treated timber and lined it and put some weed mat underneath with a metal netting, and then filled it with gravel and then topped it up with lots of soil, and they're doing really well.
Cool.
And look, they've got some lovely photos of the bees on top of these flowers. You should have a look, guys. It's really, really gorgeous. And the black-eyed Susan looks like an echinacea plant. But I could be wrong.
What about a purple cone flower?
Purple cone, let's have a look at that. Oh, well, that might be echinacea. Otherwise known as echinacea. It's right there in the article.
Oh, there you go.
Snapdragons, yeah, that's pretty common here.
Sunflowers, pretty common.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
Yarrow? What's a yarrow?
I think yarrow is it a weed in New Zealand? Could be, not sure.
See, some of these may not be available in your local area. They may not be.
Yeah, it's a perennial. Anyway, it's
what's this one here? Zinnias. Zinnias
are colourful. They look very colourful.
That bee looks amazing. It's got like white stripes.
Yeah, that looks like a more of a hover bee.
Yeah, that's weird. Speaking of white stripes, colour. The lead singer actually follows us on Twitter for some reason. That's weird. Jack White.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's
good. That's awesome. Welcome along.
You know what I find is that a lot of gardeners, and I've been doing a few presentation to a few garden clubs over the last couple of months, and what I've found is that a lot of gardeners are really focused on buying all these new hybrid plants, and a lot of those new hybrid plants are called doubles. And the problem you have when you buy doubles in plants is that the bees can't get into the actual centre of the flower to get the pollen and nectar out. So if you're going to put a garden together for the bees and you want the bees to be able to feed from it, make sure you've got single flowers. Don't go for doubles. They're just too tight. And they're finding that in Birmingham, they did some tests on having the new hybrid flowers with lots of bulk colours, and the heads were doubles and the roses were doubles. But as they planted the gardens, there were no pollinators on those gardens. And then they did a wildflower garden, and in that garden they had much more pollinators, and that's hoverflies and all sorts of little insects crawling on them, and that because the insects could get into them. So if you're going to plant a garden, make sure that you've got single flowers, not doubles.
Absolutely. And the other tip, we've said this before, but you go to a garden centre on a sunny day and find out which plants have all the bees on them, and that's probably a good indication.
Yeah, and try to get plants that flower across the seasons rather than just have one big spray in summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and that just means that the bees have more opportunity to forage through the season and have a lot of food source across the season. So that's our timely advice, but that's a good article.
Yep. Thank you, Mother Nature News. I think they're from America.
Awesome.
And the other thing is, if you do get plants from garden centres, make sure they haven't been raised from seeds that have been sprayed with neonicotinoids. There's been cases of that in America, and the bees have been dying because they've been drinking it.
Those bloody neonicotinoids and fungus. The fungicide side of things as well, gardeners, they spray these things in the garden. They don't realise that fungicides have actually been shown to cause failure in bee colonies as well, because the fungicides seem to build up over the winter.
Yes.
So just keep an eye on that, guys, when you're thinking of that. If you want to get rid of fungicides, use a dandelion mix or something. Look at some of the biodynamic methods. But, I digress again. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. And we had feedback about this article from Joyce Kennedy, our great friend, and she said the bee looks a bit waspish, but good article.
Yeah, I think that it does look a bit like that, doesn't it? And it looks like some sort of we have had some interesting bee-looking flying insects this season, and they look yellow, and it is interesting.
Yeah, that first picture does look a bit waspish, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So
good spotting there. Good spotting there, Joyce.
Yeah, well done, Joyce, and hope all is well with you guys.
Absolutely. And the next article, this one comes from How to Bee blog, which is a new blog, I think. And they are top 10 beekeeping books of all time. A rundown of the top 10 beekeeping books that How to Bee recommends. Some great books here, some that we own. And beekeeping isn't something, this is quoting from the site, beekeeping isn't something where you just buy a kit and get right to it. Well, actually you could, but your colony would probably suffer a horrific death rather quickly.
That's a good point. I mean, we have a lot of people who are really keen to have bees. We call them bee havers. And they just go about ignoring their bees and just have a look at them every now and again as they fly in and out of the hive, and then next thing they fail and they wonder why.
Yeah, absolutely. So it says here, stand on shoulders of giants and learn about beekeeping with many affordable beekeeping books written by experts in the field. And I mean, you could use this list to go to your local library, couldn't you?
Absolutely. And isn't one of your first books in here, Gary?
I've never written a book.
No, one of the first books you read as a beginner.
Yes, it is.
And it's for who? Duh.
It's called Beekeeping for Dummies.
Yay!
Well, I was a dummy then, I didn't know.
It was a good book, though.
Probably not much better now, so that's all right.
I think they covered it, and then they
let's briefly cover these books. So the first one is Beekeeping for Beginners by Keith Gilbert.
You're so bossy.
Yeah, I am. Trying to keep things moving. Never read that one? Have you read that one?
No, I haven't seen that one.
No.
Where is that one from? Where's he?
I don't know.
The author, Keith Gilbert, knowledgeable, Don't know. Don't know. There's not much is known about Keith.
No, don't know.
So this is interesting.
He's a mystery, this Keith guy.
What do the customers think? Well, offers one of the best introductions to beekeeping.
Never heard of it.
No,
maybe we'll look at that in the library. Next one is someone we do know, Top Bar Beekeeping by Les Crowder and Heather Harrell.
Awesome.
It's about top bar beekeeping.
Yeah, and that's a whole other challenge, and I think that it's an interesting way to keep bees, and I've always found it more challenging than my Langstroth.
Absolutely. And the next one is The Thinking Beekeeper, A Guide to Natural Beekeeping in Top Bar Hives. This is by Christy Hemingway, and we know Christy, don't we? Well, we've seen her stuff. Never actually met her, but...
Yeah, these are great books because they got lovely photos and everything like that. And I like the fact that she said the thinking beekeeper. And I do believe that it's really important for you to think when you're a beekeeper, and watch and understand, People don't often look at the seasons. They don't think, what's the season got to do with the bee? Well, everything.
Absolutely.
And the customers think that this book has got a lot of praise for being the best beekeeping book for those interested in top bar hives. So she also deals with top bar hives. So
yeah, check out her website too. She's got a good newsletter we get, so it's good.
So this article's really good because it tells you what the customers think about these books as well. And what's the next one? 7.
Natural Beekeeping, Organic Approaches to Modern Apiculture. This is by Ross Conrad. We've got this book, haven't we?
Yeah, this one's a good book too.
Yep, he's a good character. It's a great book. I've got a lot of good stuff out of that book, so grab it.
I like the comments that they've said in their overview that beekeepers are suffering from unprecedented challenges in the 21st century. And I think that's so true. And one of the things I say to my students is there's so much information out there. Try to understand that a lot of these books are from, other countries. And some of those things, although it's good to know about them, make sure that it's relevant for you. Be a thinking beekeeper. Understand your microclimate and your own country of origin and where the native food is and all these kind of things, and understand that. And these books sort of give you a wide range of information, but understand that you've got your own area and country to deal with. So
that's exactly right. Because I remember reading the Beekeeping for Dummies book, and it had about electric fences for beekeepers around the hives to keep the bears out. And I put up an electric fence. Then I discovered there was no bears in New Zealand.
Oh,
okay, what a waste of money. So you got to take these things and learn from them.
That's so true, and it is about what's relevant. But gaining some insight on another beekeeper's experiences actually helps you think.
I think so. And the next one is called The Beekeeper's Bible by Richard Jones and Sharon Sweeney Lynch.
This one looks quite cool. I love the cover.
Yeah, I love the cover.
It looks quite, old-fashioned, classic. I quite like the cover on this one.
Yeah, I haven't read that one yet. I'll have to look at that. And the next one is a classic. We've got this, haven't we? The Hive and the Honeybee by Lorenzo Langstroth.
Yes, he was quite a. He's American, obviously.
He is American, and this is written in the 1800s, 1860, I think. And he's the guy that designed the Langstroth beehive.
That's right.
Painted it. But this book here, I think you can pretty much get it for free now, so it's out of copyright, so you can actually get that for free. So I think if you've got a Kindle, you can get it for free off Amazon.
Yep.
Or you can buy one. So.
And I think that this is an interesting book because it talks about, the things that he learned. And he did a lot of his learning by observation, didn't he?
He did. He watched the bees all day, so it was good. I think he was a reverend or something, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah, that's my understanding.
And it is a good book. There's a couple of things in there that are not appropriate, like the way he handles American foul brood. So, obviously things have changed since 1860.
And the other thing, like we were saying, is that, different countries have different laws about what is legal as a treatment and what is illegal as a treatment. So
absolutely,
you need to understand your own country's government status on their pest management programs and know what is legal and what is not legal in your own country. New Zealand do not use antibiotics as a legal method of managing American foul brood.
Absolutely.
So, important information coming to you straight from Kiwimana HQ.
Yep, absolutely. And the other thing to consider is that when a book's written over 100 years ago, it may be out of date. Some of the methods could be, but that's a good point, Gary, because, we've had a lot of the environment in the world has changed. Food production methods have changed. Seed growing methods have changed. Weed management has changed. All these things affect it. Yeah.
So getting a good grounding from all these different books is good, but don't get too confused and overwhelmed, guys.
But his book is great. I really enjoy it. And, the thing is you can learn stuff from old books and, everything's happened in the past. As Margaret said before, that guy from the 1930s was putting thyme in his sugar syrup. You can learn stuff from previous people, but try things out on a small scale and see what works for your area.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that, Gary. Well said.
No worries. And the next one is our friend of the show, Michael Bush. He was interviewed on the podcast.
Which one? Come on.
The Practical Beekeeper.
What was the podcast that he was on?
Can't remember.
Oh, well, guys, have a look at our podcast where you can actually listen to Michael speak.
Yep. It's, I think it was 50 something. I can't remember. Anyway, it's a great book.
Wrong answer.
If you look at kiwimana.co.nz/Michael-Bush, you will get to the site.
Awesome. Okay.
And this is a great book, and it's a fantastic photo on the front, isn't it?
Oh, I just think that bee looks so awesome.
Awesome. And the next one is The Beekeeper's Handbook by Diane Samataro and Alfonso Aventable. I can't say that.
Alphonse Aventable.
I've never heard of this one either.
This one looks, I love the picture on the front. Look, that must be spring, and the nectar is flowing, and that looks like Apis mellifera carnica.
Yes.
Carnica? Yeah, it looks like a carniolan bee. Anyway, I digress again.
Yes.
This is a good book.
Have you read it?
It looks good.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's an older beekeeping guide.
And it's a fourth edition, so they must be doing something right.
since 1973. So that would automatically bring to me the realities of the Varroa as it probably not be a big thing.
No.
In this one. So, just as we say, just be aware that a lot of these books, some of the stuff may or may not be relevant at this point in time because we are now in the 21st century of beekeeping and we've had lots of different challenges.
Absolutely. And the next one, Beekeeping for Dummies by Howard Blackstone. This is the first book I got.
I know.
Love it.
It is a good book.
We must get him on the show. He'd be a great guest.
They did ask you to do some work on their how to build beekeeping boxes.
Yes, they sent us a free copy to review. We must do that.
It was quite some time ago,
I know,
Gary.
I know. I've been very busy. Sorry. He's written a new book about how to build beehives, which is quite good.
Okay, well, it's good because, all these books for dummies are sort of step-by-step guides. But as Gary said, it's also not based in New Zealand. So if you're a Kiwi beekeeper, you probably want to go to your local beekeeping books, and there are some out there, and we will put them in our show notes so you can have a look at those. And what's the one that comes to mind? The Practical Beekeeping Book of New Zealand.
Yeah, that's a great book. Great book
Sorry,
indeed.
but that's not on this list. This is the next one. Number one of all these books is the ABC and XYZ
of bee culture.
XYZ of bee culture.
Oh, we own this, don't we? Not the new version. We got one from the 1920s, I think.
Oh, okay, so this is by Dr. Hashiro Shamanuki, Anne Harmon, Kim Floatham, and Amos Ives Root.
He's the original guy that wrote the original one, I'm sure.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
awesome.
It is a good book. It's got a lot of information in it. And we've got like a leather-bound copy. It's awesome.
Oh, I know the one.
Yeah,
some of those books we got from an older beekeeper, and they are just amazing books to read, really. And you're just holding them. You feel all this history in them. It's awesome.
Absolutely. That is a great book. So it's a great rundown, isn't it? So awesome.
And have a good look through the guys, see what some of the other customers who have already bought them, and see what works for you and go from there.
Absolutely. And it's
a good article.
Absolutely. Good work there, How to Be.
howtobee.com.
Yep. And feedback from you guys about that article, Natural Beekeeping in Tasmania. Some nice reading there. Yep, I agree, guys. And they've actually invited us over there to Tasmania, so we must do that one day.
It is pretty cool. We are getting some lovely invitations, and yeah.
Yep.
If you want to become our patron, then you can help us fund some of these trips.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's we're not rich, that's for sure.
No, we're only beekeepers. Okay. Next article, 10 common myths about neonicotinoids and bees. This is by the Soil Association website, and this is a great primer on neonicotinoids today.
And where is Soil Association?
I believe they're in England.
Okay, they talk about EU. Today is the first anniversary of the 2-year European Union-wide restrictions on certain neonicotinoid pesticides. The restrictions were an important first step, but further action is urgently needed to protect UK pollinators.
Absolutely, and this goes through the 10 myths about neonicotinoids. So we won't go through them all here, but you can have a look at that. It's an awesome article.
And I think it's just, if it's not natural, then it's probably not good.
No. So check that one out.
And look at the feedback we got from Donna Trott. She says, and it's very short and straight to the point, it is poison.
Yes, I agree, Donna.
Yeah, thanks for your feedback on that, Donna, and we concur.
We do concur. And the next article is Hivemind Beekeeping Technology Starts a New Buzz. And these guys are from down the line in Christchurch, I believe. Which
is the South Island of New Zealand.
And it's the Christchurch company using modern software to transform one of the world's oldest professions, beekeeping. Hivemind creates technology to track the health and weight of beehives, and they sell software and hardware packages. And what they do is they have scales that sit underneath a beehive, and then you can tell when it's time to collect your honey. Great idea.
They can also tell you when your hive might have eaten through your stores.
Yeah, when it gets too light.
Yeah, and Christchurch is quite cold down there. They have a lot of snow and all that sort of thing, and earthquakes.
They do.
So anyway, that what can happen is that through those cold winters, that the bees can eat through their stores, and these scales can indicate whether you need to feed them.
Absolutely, because I think some of the people, beekeepers down there and hunting for manuka and stuff, they actually helicopter in hives into the middle of the bush, and then they've got no way of knowing what's happening with those bees. So this would be a great idea, because it would connect to them by satellite and tells them what the weight is, so they know when to go in to collect it. And anyone that's ever hired a helicopter knows how expensive they are. So
would that be the new buzz they're referring to, the buzz of the helicopter?
It could be.
But this is an awesome article. Have a look at it, guys. You know, Kiwis out there, we invented the electric fence, so now we're looking at the weight scales for beehives. Woohoo!
Exactly.
Go Kiwis!
And we have to apologise for these guys, because they actually got in touch with us over when we were having a winter break, and they wanted to talk about this. But we'll get in touch with you guys soon about this, because it could be a good interview to talk to you guys.
Yeah, so, and there's also a link to their website, so have a look, guys, and, you know, if you can support these Kiwi guys, go for it.
Absolutely. And I believe they're starting to release stuff in America too, so they're going to be selling to the worldwide market.
Oh, that'll be great. You know, I love entrepreneurs. I think that there's a real strength in being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And the next one is in part of our crazy media report section. Russian plane is attacked by bees.
Oh, that's funny, because they say Russian plane attacked by bees, and then their story is more crazy media reports about a harmless bee swarm. You
from Boston.
Don't you start speaking to me like that, young man. That's fight and talk.
I'm glad someone thinks I'm young. Okay, and this is
hoppity. Oh.
This is a story about a jet plane in Russia when a swarm harmlessly lands on it, and they even call 2 ambulances.
I love this. It says, I guess people were frightened by the bees, but the bees were not engaged in an attack.
No.
It was a harmless swarm, rather common at this time of the year. It is doubtful they plan to entomb the plane in wax and honey and turn it into a hive.
Absolutely, and this is from the badbeekeepingblog.com, which I think is in America. So,
okay.
Good spotting there, guys. And if you ever get, anyway, don't be worried about bees attacking the plane. The sad thing is, I think they sprayed the bees with water to get rid of them. Yeah.
Oh, you've ruined the whole story. People can read that themselves, Gary.
Oh, they can. They can. And we had some feedback from John Dixon. He said, attack, poof. Yes, I agree.
Yes, that's with our feedback we're getting is very concise and straight to the point this week, isn't it?
That's what our audience is like. They're straight to the point.
Absolutely. No stings.
Anyway, let's move on to questions from you. Questions from you.
Interesting, as we sit here and the rain still continues to fall while we record this podcast.
Still, the rain falls on the heads of the hill dwellers. Who knows what that song is?
We were hoping to go out and do some inspections this afternoon, but I don't think that's going to be happening. Too wet.
No, we'll watch the video from There's a video from David Goosen about neonicotinoids. I might watch that.
Okay, we've got to have plans, guys.
How to keep wasps away from your beehive. This is a question from Zane in Brisbane. And, well, we've got lots of ideas about this. We have a good article about this, don't we? Actually called How to Keep Wasps Away from Your Beehive.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us we've found that building a robbing screen is a really good idea.
Yep.
And the robbing screen is not only about keeping wasps away, it can keep other robbing bees away. And what our robbing screen does is it gives the bees an area out the front of the hive that the guard bees will go and propolize and inspect, and you can see that they're working out. This is the perimeter that they're guarding, and then where the robbing screen is, it's got a small entrance, and they hang out by this entrance, and anything that tries to get in is hammered. So what I've been noticing is that the wasp might get into the robbing screen, but there's about 10 guard bees that actually attack the wasp. So it just gives the bees an outside space to hang out in, but also give them the opportunity to fight any invaders that might try to come in. So it's that's what we found.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't make one of those, reduce your entrances down to a small size as possible.
I think that with reducing entrances, it's a very limited way to deal with wasps, because once they're in the hive, they can go mental. I think if you're going to reduce entrances, you're probably looking at having a mesh board, and then you can get away with a smaller entrance because there's still enough airflow. But if you've got a solid bottom board, the hive can get really hot. So that's the other reason why a screen is a good idea. And different types of screens. You can get stainless steel mesh, which has got quite a wide gap in the mesh, and then you can get the smaller insect screens. I think what are they made of, Gary? Aluminium or
aluminium?
Yep. So they're a real insect screen that you could use on your windows and stuff for your house. But Yep, absolutely. Those are some of the ideas, and don't leave waste outside the hive, like honey waste or dead bees or anything like that, because wasps are they're predators. They'll hunt, and if they find a food source near your colony, then they will continue to hunt your colonies. So clean up. Don't get wax waste and bee waste and everything and leave it out the front of the hive. You're just encouraging pests to come to your colonies.
And the other thing is, always take a rubbish bag with you when you go, and any comb or bits of honey, put it in that. Don't leave it on the ground, because I was talking to a beginner beekeeper the other day, and they did that by mistake and left a whole lot of comb outside, and then the next thing they had every bee in the neighbourhood attacking them.
It's so true, and I think that these little things actually can contribute to quite a few big results of failure. So, some people have a bucket that they take to there and put a rubbish bag in it, and then put everything into the rubbish bag, and then they put the lid on while they're working, so that it doesn't open it up to other bees coming along. So just try and remember that it's just like leaving a whole lot of your rubbish bags open outside the front of your front door, and you're just encouraging pests. So,
like bears.
Yeah, that's a few of my ideas, guys.
Yeah, got to watch out for those bears.
Thanks, Zane, in Brisbane. And we've had a few Aussies buy our robbing screens, and there is a picture on the website if you want to build your own, which we beekeepers love building our own stuff.
Or buy one from us. Anyway,
yes, indeed, that'd be good if we had some. So we're working on that at the moment.
Once I get over
moving
this.
along.
This is the next question from Chris in Auckland. Where do I buy Apilifer in New Zealand?
Okay, well, Apilifer is 3 separate words.
Yep.
Apilifer. And most apiculture products or treatments for varroa and that type of thing start with api. So be careful. If you are buying Apilifer, it is a thymol-based organic treatment.
Not to be confused with Epivar, eh?
Yeah, and then there's Epistan, Epiguard, so many different things. So don't get confused, guys.
So where did you buy it from then?
Is available from kiwimana.co.nz/shop.
Absolutely. And we must get some more. And
very good, because you can buy the quantities that will, 2 packets will give you 4 treatments, and it's $13.80 plus postage.
Absolutely, and we'll be getting some more because I think we've sold out.
Yeah, we've got some in there at the moment, so use that when we get a bit more into summer. So some of the treatments we recommend would be over summer and autumn, and then the other ones over winter and spring would be the vaporization method with oxalic acid. So,
Yep. Cool. And the next one is how do I assemble a New Zealand kit set beehive from Heidi and Nelson? Well, we did an article about this, didn't we? And we talked about the heart of the wood and all the other methods you got to learn about.
Yeah. On the product page, does it have any instructions on there, on our product page, on our online shop?
I don't know, but we did an article about this, so I've got a link in the show notes, and it tells you how to do it.
Yeah. We had
this article here. See?
Discussions about assembling it, and they say the heart of the wood should be on the outside. So if the wood starts to shift because the hives get wet and dry and they do contract and can move, then if you nail it properly, some people nail across the front and on the sides, so there's lots of ways to do it. You'd also want to understand how to assemble a frame if you're going to build your own gear. We've also got an article about how to build your frames.
Absolutely. And the next question came in hot off the press. This came in about 5 hours ago.
Okay.
And this is from Lisa in Canada, and she said, "Hi guys, really loving listening to your podcast as I'm over here beekeeping in Canada."
Yay! Go Canada!
Go Canada.
Yeah,
okay.
We digress.
I thought of a great idea, she said yesterday, bee frames made from bamboo, and she's given us a link here to an article. What do you think?
Me, I just think that bamboo, it has a long stringy way to do it. So I think you'd have to be very careful.
To cut,
yeah, and but that'd last. I think they'd really last for a really long time.
Yeah, another thing of bamboo, it's good to, if you cut it down, leave it for about a year before you use it because it becomes really hard. So that's, I mean, just, give it a go and get back to us, Lisa, and tell us what you think of it.
Yeah, long life, I think they would last really well. A lot of the woodware that goes into the hive, frames and the wood boxes, it all get propolised anyway, and propolis seems to make the frames last really well and the inside of the boxes last well.
Yeah.
So propolis in itself is its own glue, and I'm not sure how the bees would respond to them in the hive and how they would be able to propolise it. I kind of think it might be a bit too tough on them. I'm not sure.
And the other thing about bamboo, it's nothing straight, is it? It's always curved, like the edges and stuff, so...
Well,
yeah,
have a look. Check it out, guys. There's a link on that. And thanks, Lisa, for your wonderful comments. And, we've probably got about another 74 podcasts for you to listen to, so enjoy.
Absolutely. And we've actually interviewed some people from Canada. We interviewed Robin Bedard and a few other people from Canada, so check it out.
Yeah, plenty of people from all over the world have been a part of our Kiwimana Buzz and sharing a lot of their knowledge and their experiences with us. So there's plenty out there, guys. So it's easy to do. Just click on it and you can have a good listen.
Yep, absolutely. And if you've got any questions, email us at info@kiwimana.co.nz or email us a sound file that we can play online and hear your voice.
Yeah, and it'd be awesome. And any of your feedback about the different plants, bee-friendly plants, and what your country calls them, that'd be good.
Absolutely. Well, let's get back to feedback from you guys. Feedback from you guys. This is where we get feedback from you guys. First one.
Through iTunes, as it were.
iTunes
Yay.
reviews. Always welcome.
Thanks for this.
First one here. Fantastic and awesome bee podcast. This is from Chauncey520.
Chauncey520.
Oh, thanks, Chauncey. And 5 stars, and they're from the United States of America. And they say, great bee info. And
no, she says, good bee information and new episodes regularly. They talk funny. What? What the hell is that? What's she saying? We talk funny. Anyway, and are a bit bananas.
Banana!
But you get used to it. Although they are in NZ land and their seasonal topics are 6 months ahead of the Yanks, they do cover bee news and interview beekeepers from around the world. Best beekeeping podcast.
Yay! Thank you.
And she's got here a helpful tip. Mesh board. Oh, she goes mesh board.
Mesh board equals
screen bottom board. That's true. Gary and Margaret, keep up the good work. And that's from, he's got his name, Stephen in Oklahoma.
Well, thanks so much, Stephen, for your comments. And we're glad it does become a bit relevant as the season progresses. So, Yeah, we'll keep you on your toes if nothing else. And you know, what we always say to our students is be prepared. Be
Absolutely.
very prepared.
Thanks, Stephen, for those comments. That's great. And we got an email from Jeff. Love the podcast. Listen to every episode. Enjoy your topics, sound quality, and guests. And the awesome Margaret.
Oh, thanks, Jeff.
Also, you should go off on a tangent all you want. It makes it real.
It's so true. It is.
There you go. Someone likes your tangents.
Yeah, thanks. You know, what can I say? I love to go off on tangents because there's so much relevant stuff out there, and sometimes it just, when we're talking, it comes up. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Off I go in a tangent.
And if you want to help us, we're on Patreon. So thanks to everyone that supports us through our Patreon account. We really appreciate your support, and your contributions help us bring this show to you guys.
Yeah, and Patreon is actually where you become our patron. And our patron means that you support us, and it helps us with our beekeeping projects, and we have a lot happening. You know, we do our education programs, and we do a lot of student work, and it also helps us with maintaining our apiary and our work with growing more bees. And we grow bees, and we save the honey, and we give it to our bees. We don't extract a lot. So if you want to be a patron for us, just have a look at this link.
Yeah, it's Patreon, patreon.com/KiwiMana. And if you're the executive producer, the best patron of the month, you get a free ad on the right hand side of our website.
Always a bonus.
Mention your website or your business, please do that.
Yeah, and it just means that, you know, you'll get a bit of priority and a bit of VIP. Through KiwiMana.
Buzz.
Hey, you know what I'd like to listen to? Our special tui.
Okay, well, we can do that. Wait a minute.
And I'd really love to share that with you. For those of you who aren't in New Zealand, this is our tui bird, and also referred to as the parson's bird, because they have a lovely white feather on their chest. And in our local neighbourhood, where we sort of have a valley, we have many families of this native bird, and the singing is just awesome. So
yes.
I just wanted to share that with you again.
Absolutely, and don't forget our International Podcast Day. If you can record a message for us, that would be great, and you can be part of the show. Yeah,
join the KiwiMana buzz and send that in for us, and a little sound bite. Say who you are, and we love to hear it and share you with our audience.
Absolutely, include your if you've got a website, include your website and your message. That'd be awesome too. Anyway, that's it from me. So thanks, guys, again for listening.
And that's it from him. And that's it from me. And I just want to say thanks, guys, for taking time again, and all your support and your emails and your, supporting us through our online shop and our beekeeper services. Just awesome. And yeah, we'll hear from you over the next week.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
See ya.